next news. Breaking news from the White House.
The media machine is so desperate to stop Kash Patel, it just tried to turn a gift bottle into a national scandal. That's right, while the Trump administration is restoring law, order, and accountability, the same people who ignored the real abuses of the previous administration are hyperventilating over a customized bourbon bottle. The Atlantic publishes the hit piece, the usual anti-Trump accounts scream for Patel to be fired, and cable news starts hinting at another invented drinking problem narrative. But then came the part that they did not want you to hear. The FBI shut it down, so why are they still panicking? Now, this matters because the target is not really a bottle. It's not really Kash Patel's taste in gifts. The target is any Trump-aligned official who starts getting results. Americans have watched the script too many times. When the left can't beat a strong America First leader on performance, they launch a character smear, flood social media, hope the noise becomes the story. They did it to Brett Kavanaugh, they did it to Pete Hegseth, and now they're trying to do it on Kash Patel. Ask yourself why this is happening right now. President Trump's back in the White House, Republicans control Congress, the system that protected insiders is being forced into daylight. Reports say the Comey case is moving, fraud crackdowns are expanding, and old Russiagate questions are back on the table. That threatens a lot of people. So suddenly the biggest emergency in Washington is gift bourbon. Come on. This is not journalism. It's a smokescreen designed to distract you while the accountability clock keeps on ticking. And while the media keeps trying to poison the public conversation with fake outrage, let me share something that actually helps real people. You've probably seen the clip of Joe Rogan with Mel Gibson talking about people close to them who face serious health struggles and then saw dramatic turnarounds. Rogan brings up red light-based therapies and how they work at a cellular level. Gibson says this stuff works, and that got my attention. See, in my own life, I watched something similar with my wife who dealt with constant discomfort and anxiety for far too long, and that's why I looked into red light therapy with Jonathan Otto and the work that he did. Now, if you want to learn more, go to myredlight.com. Use NNN25 for 25% off individual items or NNN30 for 30% off bundles. When truth matters, I care about solutions that actually improve lives, not media theater. Now back to the fake scandal that fell apart in seconds as soon as the facts entered the room. See, here's the detail that wrecks the entire smear campaign. According to the FBI, Director Kash Patel followed all applicable ethical guidelines. In other words, the Bureau looked at the claim, checked the rules, and cleared him. Case closed. But the outrage factory kept churning anyway because the point was never ethics. The point was planting an image, feeding a narrative, and turning your attention away from what Patel is actually doing inside the FBI. And that is where the story gets a whole lot bigger. The FBI said the agency director, Patel, followed all applicable ethical guidelines after a report in The Atlantic alleged he distributed customized bourbon whiskey bottles as gifts. That's the scandal, guys. That's what The Atlantic is focusing on right now. So the FBI knocking down The Atlantic's ethics spin. Next up, a reaction sums up how ridiculous the hit piece looks like to regular Americans. Buckeye Buffalonian writes, "The more I learn about Kash Patel, the more I realize he's a genuinely cool dude. He likes hockey and bourbon. Awesome. The more I read from The Atlantic, the more I realize it's trailer park trash." That post turns the mockery up a notch. Now watch the next reaction flip the script on the press corps, calling this bourbon smear what it is, projection. You guys remember this clip that was floating around? Remember this clip? Right after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, assassination attempt on Trump. Members of the press literally taking bottles of wine and champagne off of the table. So, White House correspondent, Pete Hegseth has a drinking problem. Kavanaugh has a drinking problem. Patel has a drinking problem. This isn't called projection? Yeah. So the same media crowd that slaps a drinking label on every Trump ally is getting called out. Next, Derek Evans shows how desperate the meltdown has become. The Atlantic on MSDNC are in full meltdown over Patel giving personalized bourbon bottles as gifts. That's their big controversy. Oh my goodness. A gift bottle. And they act like it's Watergate, but Lauren Boebert jumps in with the direct defense saying she saw one beer at a hockey game and that's it.
Are you concerned at all about Kash Patel's drinking as FBI director?
I don't know what Kash Patel does. He says that he's not drinking a lot. I saw one beer at a hockey game. I mean, I've had a couple of beers at a hockey game.
Fair. Thank you, Congresswoman.
I've had a couple beers at a hockey game. Who hasn't, right? So she's not buying the smear campaign. Neither are a lot of conservatives. Story turns serious because Kash Patel lays out something bigger, an active grand conspiracy against President Trump, confirming we are investigating a grand conspiracy. It started the moment Trump came down the golden escalator, and it continues today. Ongoing acts of conspiracy reset the statute of limitations. See, this is why they're so dead set on trying to smear him, because Kash Patel is ripping the veil down and exposing the deep state rot at its core.
Then what do we discover? Hillary Clinton, and this is the reason this is important is because you have said publicly you're investigating a grand conspiracy. Would you define a grand conspiracy as the minute Donald Trump came down the escalator till today, that there has been a coordinated effort to destroy this man?
Yes, there has. And it's not me saying it. Look at the documents. Just flip the tables, Sean. Hang on a second, right? Let's say President Trump unleashed his FBI to go and illegally surveil his opponents. What would happen? The media cycle would stop. It would be the only thing that the mainstream media would be screaming for accountability on. But just like because President Trump's the one that delivered a record reduction in law enforcement under this FBI, because it was he who was attacked unlawfully, and his surrogates and his campaign, they cover it up. So I learned as a lead investigator on House Intel that it's not my words that are the best evidence, it's theirs. Go find the documents. So what we did was, when we walked in the door, I said, hey, this conspiracy continued. It didn't end, because the documents we released under the House Intel days showed that there were individuals who are continuing the work of the Steele dossier.
Continuing the work. That's why they're so dead set. Kash Patel dropping a Moab on Russiagate. They did it again. We found them. We found the documents. So that's the real threat from the swamp. Not bourbon bottles, but Kash saying the conspiracy never stopped and the documents are there. Which makes the next left-wing meltdown predictable, with Brian Krasenstein demanding Patel be fired over the whiskey story. WTF, Kash Patel gave out bottles of personalized Kash Patel FBI Director whiskey to staff and civilians he encountered in his duties. 8 people, including current and former FBI and DOJ employees and others who are familiar with Patel's distribution. This is the actual bottle. In a glass, it's an etched bottle. I wonder what kind of bourbon that is. WR? Woodford Reserve. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, that's Woodford Reserve. That's the good stuff, man. I hope it's the double oaked at least. Come on now. They're melting down over this. So Krasenstein proves the media is still clinging to the bourbon hoax even after the bigger corruption story. Gunter Eagleman hammers the whole farce, calling out the Atlantic and MSDNC. The horror! The Atlantic just published what the dorks on MSDNC call another controversy here, Kash Patel. Personalized bottle of bourbon.
Back with a new controversy for the head of the FBI. The Atlantic reports Kash Patel has been gifting personalized bourbon bottles to FBI staff and civilians he encounters while carrying out his duties as FBI director. Patel recently sued the Atlantic, which says it stands by its reporting over a different story alleging he drinks to excess. MS Now reported yesterday that the FBI is launching a criminal leak investigation into the journalist behind that piece, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. A spokesman for the agency denied that development. That reporter, Sarah Fitzpatrick, also wrote this latest Atlantic article. Let's bring in MS Now Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delaney. Ken, how unusual is it for the head of a federal agency to be giving out gifts like this, branded bourbon? And what is the FBI saying about the reporting?
Anna, I would say it's fairly unusual for the head of any federal agency, but unheard of for the FBI director. in part because the FBI has had strict rules for decades about drinking on the job, and it's a pretty straight-laced organization. Obviously, it's America's premier law enforcement agency. You know, they wear white shirts and dark ties, or at least they used to, and it's a pretty buttoned-up agency. And so this is being greeted with a lot of if not alarm, perhaps discomfort among many people within the Bureau. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And it's sort of part of a pattern with Kash Patel of doing things that no FBI director has ever done. He's handed out challenge coins with images of the Punisher, a cartoon character. He really sort of revels in the branding and the mystique of being the FBI director in a way that no previous director ever has. Now, what's interesting is the FBI is not disputing this. In fact, they're saying that giving out these kinds of gifts is part of a long tradition at the FBI and consistent with ethics rules. But a lot of other people have been telling the Atlantic, Sarah Fitzpatrick, that they're very uncomfortable about this, and they're put in an awkward position because if you don't want to accept a gift from the director Kash Patel, then where does that leave you? Does it put your job in peril? That's the kind of thing that people are concerned about. So it's just a very bizarre situation on it.
Yeah, it's bizarre that it's actually getting media coverage. That's what's bizarre. A scandal. See, the real reason they're terrified has nothing to do with bourbon and everything to do with exposure. Patel has publicly confirmed investigators are looking at what he described as the grand conspiracy tied to the long campaign against President Trump dating back to the moment he came down the escalator. That means Russiagate threads, prior FBI leadership material, possible ongoing acts that could affect legal timelines are all back in focus. And think about that. If Patel is advancing real accountability, then every clown show headline about whiskey bottles makes perfect sense. They're not reporting a scandal, they're trying to bury a reckoning. The establishment's not laughing because it's confident. It's flailing because it knows the receipts may finally be catching up. So let's call this what it is. It's another lazy media smear, another media tantrum, another total failure to stop an America First official from doing his job. The FBI cleared Kash Patel. Lauren Boebert stood up and said what normal Americans are thinking: one beer at a hockey game is not a scandal. Even online, people are pointing out the obvious pattern. Every effective conservative suddenly gets the same scripted attack. See, the left's out of ammunition, and when gift bottles become front page news, you know something bigger is moving behind the curtain. So if you're sick of these propaganda games, share this report, subscribe, and comment below. Do you believe the media is targeting Kash Patel because he's getting too close to the truth? Yes or no? And text raw feed to the number on the screen, 844-840-4963, to bypass the algorithm suppression and get notifications that YouTube never sends. Yeah, the one I'll send it to you directly to your phone. Make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Stay loud, stay free, and keep backing the truth.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.